Welcome everyone to another piece of the puzzle, as we call it. This is Isaac and Bruno. We're two friends and colleagues, collaborators, businessmen and engineers who like to discover how to do things better, how to develop, and how to not do things also. And today's session, which is going to be again very short, only 10 minutes long, is how to develop products, services, and businesses iteratively. And the question comes from a discussion we've had with Bruno about iteratively doing things little by little. People call it trial and error. Bruno told me that, Bruno, you said earlier that people still think that iteration or trial and error is about throwing things against the wall and seeing whether it sticks. And that's what we agreed. And we said that's one way of doing it, probably not the best way of doing it. So off to you.
Well, I gonna hit record. Sorry, not record, but stopwatch. So we are true to our 10 minutes, although we cheated a little bit by stealing time.
Always cheat by ranting.
Yeah. First, I'm happy to say that I am happy that more experimentative approach to development, more iterative approach to development has become so popular through design thinking, lean startup, various other approaches, etc. But what was lost in the process, or what was misunderstood in the process, is that this iterative development, be it product, services, businesses, some silver bullet magical approach that whatever starting point you take, you're going to end up somewhere useful, like the whole pivoting parlance from the lean startup, which is frankly just wrong, because in a good business process, we want to take as little steps as possible to reach that final stage that is interesting and attractive to us. So no, it is not correct that you can start at any random stage and then you can do hundreds of these small iterations and pivots to get where you want to get. That is only recipe for disaster, disappointment, and destruction. You see, I got triple D and completely accidentally.
Fantastic. I mean, that's like starting from a single lean canvas, business model canvas, saying, okay, I'll start with something, and then hopefully, little by little, I will trial and error it until somehow the magical business model canvas appears and everything's clear. And that is the way I always described it in the past in trainings for product development into teams is, imagine you are placed blindfolded on some place in Switzerland where I used to work, and I tell you to go find the peak of Zermatt, which is the Toblerone mountain, as everybody knows it. And now you have to find the highest peak, or at least come close to the highest peak. How likely are you to go blindly through the world, touching things and figuring out which direction you're going by doing small trial and error steps? You might find it after many, many years, which by that time, probably if you were a startup, your funding is dry, if you even ever had funding with that approach. That would be trial and error. And I've seen it working this way. It's probably the most basic way that people iterate when they have to iterate, because they don't know a priori everything that has to be done in a certain way. And it's a very wasteful way, in a way, it's a luxury of those who have a lot of resources. I see it. I mostly see it in bigger organizations. I've seen it. Smaller ones, they get crafty. They do other things, which we can talk about.
Yeah. And just so people don't think we are clowning or dunking on uncertainty, this has nothing to do with uncertainty. But good iterative development both recognizes uncertainty, but then also actively works on determining, okay, where are the biggest knowledge gap, performance gap, whatever gaps, and then figuring out, okay, what steps might help us bridge that. So we accept that we will not be able to pre-plan all the steps. We must discover through action if the steps are actually going to work, but we have just minimized the set space, we have minimized the option space to a number of iterations, which we believe could plausibly take us to the end destination, Toblerone mountain, whatever else. And I like something that you mentioned, if you can go a bit more into it. In one of our previous conversations, you opened about set-based concurrent engineering, which does have some practices that are useful for iterative development. So maybe just all share a little bit more about that.
So There are two ways of looking at this. The one is what we describe as trial and error. It's the naive way of trial and error, where you have a single point and you change it. You have one canvas, let's say, if you want to take the business model canvas view. You can have one design, whatever it is you're developing, one engineering design, and then you adjust the parameters. Maybe you change the pricing model. Maybe you change slightly to understand the customer segment, or maybe you change the diameter here or the pressure here, whatever. And then you slowly iterate and try to move closer to the ultimate mountain by changing this one point forward. So the point doesn't maybe like a random walk on the design space. Design space being the total set of values that your parameters could take, let's say, or the outcome of this, actually, what kind of designs you get. And the other way is the set-based, is that you take a set of parameters, you take, let's say, ranges, which means vice versa, when you do a business model canvas, you might say, look, we could do this, or that. The possible options for pricing are pay-per-use with this way or that way, different price points, for example. And then you try to make an experimental design out of this. You don't need to get all too nerdy about this, but the idea is to explore, learn more, where exactly what you said is exactly where you have the big knowledge gap. So you don't don't shove the knowledge gaps under the carpet to say, oh yeah, it's too troubling now. If I open this kind of worms, the business is gone. Nobody will believe that this will ever fly. No, you actually go where the dread is. If you dread that something was going to come up that might be a knowledge gap, just go after it and then see what options do we have. And then exploring that space together with other options. And gradually, you do this opening and closing, which people call design thinking in some way. And so you move through the design space, and the goal is to have a range of options out of which you don't aim to figure out which one is the absolute best one, because that option in isolation, that pricing model might not be the best one by itself, everything else being equal. That pricing model might be the best only if you combine it with a certain set of features, functions, ways of deployment, ways of whatever else is in your business model canvas. So it is to understand how the systems interact, the technology and the customer side, the component and other components of the system, so that you gain a better understanding of the system. And the idea, therefore, is not to decide which one is the best, given everything, like it's the best, whatever happens, but to slice away the stupid options that might not even be stupid in the beginning, but realize, oh, this never had a chance to work. So instead of narrowing and looking down a tube, you open up, you paralyze to some degree, and then you say, this is not good, this is not good. So what remains? We know this now. We know that this is not likely to change. What else should we look into? And therefore you evolve the whole system. It's really like evolution. It's evolutionary by definition.
Yeah. And here, because I do think finding right words can be useful, we could call fit for purpose. You narrow your space, and what remains is more and more fit for purpose for the system. They come together and make a whole that makes sense. And the reason why I also propose that we discuss iterations, why I think it's so useful, is because chunking work, chunking development in iterations ends up overall as a quicker process with better quality and also better economical benefits. Right. So short term, it may look, hey, you're prolonging this. Like, why are we now maintaining all these options? Why are we doing all this exploration? Shouldn't we just be delivering that thing that we agreed on? It might seem like, hey, of course that should be faster. But when you stop, pause, and we look, both you and I, what we did, but also what other professionals did, and what academia also shows is that no, actually taking this iterative approach that's based on set-based concurrent engineering, or in general exploring the option space in a good way, is quicker in the long run. So we have this thing that doesn't seem so obvious, that doesn't feel natural, because the most natural feels, we have a thing, let's sprint up to it.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like, let's stop, assess, explore A, B, C, and D, discard D, and then go A, B, C, discard C, A, B.
It feels slower whenever I talk to people about this, it feels slower because they say, oh, how are you going to find the resources to do all that exploration? But you know what usually happens is, if you don't think this way, and which is a mix of strategic and tactical, if you don't think this way, then you're more likely to start running out of time because you keep doing small trials with errors, finding out your errors and doing minor adjustments. And the more you go down that path without having options in your mind, the more you start to close down, and you now feel pressured both for time and for budget. And then you start to get anxious that, oh my God, now I absolutely have no time to open up again. And so you fall into the sunken cost fallacy, and therefore you're way less likely to actually discover something that might be looking you in the eyes, in the face. And then you start to have also the human elements where you see it, but you look at it, but you don't see it, you don't perceive it. So you're less likely to open up, and even when the revelation comes up that, you know what, we should have done this, or we could have done this instead of what we have tried so far. You don't have time, you don't have energy anymore, you don't have the attention. So you're setting yourself up for failure in a way. And that's why I say I've seen the little trial and error happens in, let's say the naive trial and error, the point-based, typically happens in organizations that have the money to support that, because a small organization that is trying to develop something with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of ambition and has no limitations of this, how we did this before, this worked before, so it will also work now. The small ones, they cannot afford to do that. You will not have enough time to hit by chance so either you are very lucky and you hit the right starting point by chance, and therefore you are very close to the mountain, or you are somewhere in a valley and the first steps look fantastic, but then you look at the landscape around the mountain, you see there are also other smaller mountains which are not that successful to climb, and yet you might climb one of those and say, I have arrived, but you have arrived nowhere close to where you want to go. So it's literally an optimization problem, search optimization. And it's one of those paradoxes, like go slow to go fast. I think this saying goes in this direction too. It feels like you go slower, but you actually end up going faster with higher likelihood, because you are limiting yourself to the exposure to exposure of the risk that you will start somewhere that has no chance of ever ending close to your target. So multi-start, people who are in optimization, me included, I used to be a big optimization nerd. We have different terminologies for this, but the Bismol canvas is one way to do this. And this means have multiple canvases, have multiple options in every box of the canvas. Don't find the one holy canvas that will work. It will never work from the start. And that's why you need to also pull through the entire system. Try out the whole thing, prototype something. Don't only sit in your office thinking about the perfect post-its to put on the wall, because if you don't go out there to battle test it and see if it sticks, or what sticks and what doesn't stick and what will never stick, you're just doing mind games. It will never come to a fruition.
I don't have much to disagree with, but we're out of time, Isaac.
Fantastic. Perfect timing.
Yeah, and those of you listening, if you have any questions about iterations or something that we mentioned that you would like us to take a deeper dive, just write to us on LinkedIn, email, whatever, and we're happy to dedicate another 10-minute segment.
Yeah. Only 10 minutes
to your questions specifically.
And there are good books about this. You have quite a few of them behind that we've discussed it. So on to the next one, because we'll do this in series this time, like last night. And we'll see you in the next one, which is about how to make the most of what you have. Given we live in an era where many companies don't have anymore what they used to have, because it's tough times in different organizations, different industries. So see you very soon.